In August 1971, a quiet television interruption triggered one of the most destructive monetary shifts in modern history. President Nixon appeared on television, calmly explaining a decision most viewers didn't fully understand at that moment. Hidden inside that speech was a move that permanently altered money, savings, and global economic trust. Nixon announced the United States would stop converting dollars into gold, calling the change temporary and harmless. He promised Americans their dollar would hold value, stability would remain, and nothing fundamental would change. Those assurances collapsed quickly, and the consequences unfolded over decades, not months. At the time, gold was fixed at $35 per ounce under international agreement. Less than a decade later, gold exploded above $800, exposing how badly the currency weakened. Inflation surged, purchasing power collapsed, and ordinary families watched savings shrink silently year after year. By the late 1970s, inflation reached nearly 15%, shocking economists and destroying long-term financial planning. Even worse, unemployment rose simultaneously, creating a condition nobody expected or properly understood. Economists later named this rare disaster stagflation, a mix of rising prices and disappearing jobs. The roots of this crisis actually began decades earlier, not during Nixon's presidency alone. In 1944, global leaders met in Bretton Woods to redesign the international monetary system. Their goal was preventing currency chaos that had fueled depression and World War. They created a system where global currencies linked to the US dollar. The dollar itself was anchored to gold at $35 per ounce. Foreign governments could exchange dollars for real gold anytime, ensuring discipline and trust. That system worked beautifully, while America respected limits and controlled money creation. Europe rebuilt, Japan industrialized, and the American middle class flourished dramatically. Problems began when US spending expanded faster than gold reserves could support. During the 1960s, America financed both the Vietnam War and massive domestic programs. These projects were popular politically, but extremely expensive financially. Instead of raising taxes or cutting spending, leaders chose monetary expansion. Dollars multiplied far faster than gold reserves inside Fort Knox. Foreign governments noticed the imbalance and quietly began questioning American promises. France openly challenged the system, demanding gold in exchange for accumulated dollars. Other nations followed, draining American gold reserves steadily throughout the late 1960s. By 1971, US gold holdings had fallen by more than half. Meanwhile, deficits kept growing and money printing never slowed. Foreign-held dollars exceeded available gold, threatening immediate systemic collapse. Switzerland exited the system. Britain demanded gold transfers. Pressure intensified rapidly. Behind closed doors, US officials met urgently at Camp David. They debated options knowing the existing system could not survive. Nixon ultimately chose suspension, severing gold backing without congressional approval. He framed it as temporary, carefully avoiding words like devaluation. Markets reacted instantly. Currencies fluctuated wildly across the globe. Attempts to stabilize exchange rates failed within 15 months. By 1973, global currencies floated freely for the first time. Inflation accelerated, eroding wages, savings, and retirement plans nationwide. Americans who trusted stability watched purchasing power collapse silently. Gold prices told the truth louder than official statements ever could. $35 gold became $800 gold within 1 decade. Unemployment climbed while prices rose, breaking traditional economic assumptions. Restoring stability required extreme measures nobody wanted to face. Interest rates were pushed near 20% under Federal Reserve leadership. The result was recession, business failures, and unemployment exceeding 10%. That pain was the delayed cost of unchecked money creation. What concerns me most is how closely today mirrors that earlier period. Once again, wars are financed through debt rather than taxation. Once again, massive domestic promises lack realistic funding sources. Central banks have printed trillions since 2008, accelerating after the pandemic. Foreign governments are openly reducing reliance on the US dollar. Gold purchases by central banks are rising at historic speeds. National debt now approaches $40 trillion and grows relentlessly. Interest payments alone exceed $1 trillion annually. In 1971, debt was $400 billion, tiny by comparison. Today's crisis is similar, but magnified beyond historical precedent. The dollar has already lost over 98% purchasing power since 1971. America once produced most of what it consumed. That reality no longer exists. Trade deficits now reach hundreds of billions annually. Dollar dominance survives mainly through inertia, not discipline. Alternatives are actively being built outside traditional Western systems. History shows collapses occur suddenly after long periods of denial. Leaders repeatedly reassure stability until the final moment arrives. The warning signs today look disturbingly familiar. Debt levels are structural, not temporary or cyclical. Monetary expansion has replaced productive growth as policy. Decisions shaping your financial future are made behind closed doors. Savers historically pay the price while debtors benefit quietly. Central banks protect themselves long before the public understands risks. Gold accumulation by governments reflects preparation, not speculation. These actions are observable facts, not conspiracy theories. In my opinion, most people miss how quickly trust can vanish. Monetary systems survive on confidence, not official promises. Faith erodes gradually, then collapses suddenly. The experiment started in 1971, never truly ended. Every printed dollar added weight to an inevitable reckoning. Temporary measures became permanent without public consent. We are the generation facing consequences deferred decades earlier. Preparation matters more than panic during systemic transitions. Those who study history gain advantage over those trusting reassurances. Governments cannot print real wealth indefinitely. Promises without discipline always fail eventually. The question is timing, not possibility. I believe the next phase arrives sooner than many expect. History rarely announces collapse politely or gradually. Understanding patterns allows better personal financial decisions. Awareness is the first step toward protection. If this helped you think differently, subscribe for deeper analysis ahead.